Hey, this is William for attackofthefanboy.com, and this is Unravel, the EA-published whimsical 2D platformer by developer who I'm not sure. I know absolutely nothing about this game. Kyle, you have been following this more so than I, even though I guess the whole world got a glimpse of it at E3. And we got some gameplay here from the very first level of the game. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, this is a full run of the first level of the game.
And we also got to speak with the developer for this.
Yeah, Coldwood Interactive, I believe is their official name.
Okay.
Yeah, and like you said, I've been following this game since I saw it at E3. If you know me, you know that this is right up my alley. I love, these smaller, more personal indie games, which this is, which it was. You said before, it was pretty weird to see this at E3, especially at the EA conference where it's all Madden, action and all that sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden, a guy comes out and with a yarn model and shows off this game that is, I think, beautiful, and I think really touching in the way that it's kind of approaching the story and the gameplay. I know I'm not sure if it's up your alley. How have you felt about it, just seeing the trailers and stuff?
I just remember them sneaking it in between Hoop God and, and Michael Irvin. No, I don't remember. I just remember it being like a super surprise because, like you said, EA's just usually known for a lot bigger tentpole sort of games, and this just seemed like out of place in a conference like that. But obviously, just looking at some of the gameplay here, it looks pretty damn good. This was on PC or PS4?
This was on PS4. And I mean, it looks gorgeous. Just the visual effects of the background fading into the distance. You really do get a sense of presence, and it looks really pretty, and the gameplay is nice as well. I mean, so you play as Yarny, this yarn creation that kind of comes to life, and your main purpose in the game is to kind of piece together the memories of this old woman it was her yarn that created you. It's kind of loose with the way that it tells the story. It actually, the developer said, we had a Q&A session. They said they're not putting the story in your face. It's there for you if you feel like it. But otherwise, you can just play this little platformer and have a good time. It's very physics based, as you kind of see with some of the jumping and the puzzles. But it still feels tight. I always felt like Little Big Planet tried for that physics platforming, and it never felt very good. But this does. This feels actually really good.
Yeah, I was going to ask when you said, like, you don't have to pay very much attention to the story or whatever. Is it solid enough to kind of stand on its own with just the gameplay? Because I don't know how much you probably get into in the first level or so, but I'm wondering if things evolve, you learn new skills or anything, or do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't know that you're necessarily going to get a ton of abilities or skills. You kind of get your core functionality of base jumping and carrying items, and your yarn actually does play a big part in this. It kind of, when you look at it, it might seem like just an aesthetic thing where you're made of yarn and the yarn trails behind you, but you can actually climb up your yarn that is behind you to get to areas that you've already been, but also you can kind of drape it in different ways. So there is a lot of gameplay opportunities here. I think the main core of the game, though, is the emotional feeling of it, rather than just like, it's not a Mario. It's not something where you're always trying to have a fun, actiony sort of time. They actually did mention, I mean, this is kind of bright and colorful and cheery, but they mentioned that there are a lot of darker levels, and there is a lot of darkness in the story that you will come across, where you're kind of getting sad about, because it is an older lady and you're looking back at her life So there's going to be some sad times in there. Those are going to come in the later levels, which they said, you know, they've shown a lot of nature, and you might get the impression that it's all kind of nature and in gardens and sheds, but one level that they did mention was like an abandoned mine. So you're getting into more man-made structures and different environments. They mentioned the mine because that is a darker area, and then the story gets darker as well there. And so you know, he kept mentioning how the darkness kind of brings out the light. It balances the light of the story, so you get this contrast and makes those happier moments feel better.
It looks like this game's pretty cool. Honestly, just looking at the video here, the variety that you have in using the yarn, like you said, looks kind of fun.
Yeah, you can see those platforms up above those sunflowers. You could actually like drape your yarn in a different way through there. I don't know if you could maybe get to the point where you can't reach this in this level, but I'm sure in later levels that's going to play a much bigger part, where you kind of have to figure out the ways to navigate the level, not only with your abilities, but also just to make sure that you have enough yarn. Because once you run out, you're stuck. You have to get to that next ball of yarn to refill yourself. So there's definitely some mechanics there to it.
Yeah, I had read a little something about this, and people are kind of wondering like how long is the game, and you know, obviously people get concerned about price. Do you know anything about that?
We didn't. Well, the price is $19.99. I saw that on the PlayStation Store. So yeah, during the Q&A, we kind of asked how long the game was, and their answer was we don't really know, because it is very puzzle based, and some players might take longer to figure things out. I had already played through this. I did another run through, so that's why I'm kind of going quick and not having to figure stuff out. But I did have to figure some of this stuff out. You need to spot small, you know, batches of red yarn that you have to tie onto, or figure out this physics puzzle. So that can kind of stretch it out. So they weren't sure exactly how long it would take an average player to get through. We will find out in my review when I get to later levels and can talk about them. We'll see. They were the ones that came out with the puzzles. I actually hadn't thought of it as a puzzly game. I thought of it more just as a straight platformer. So that I was like, okay, so maybe it does get a little bit more in depth in the gameplay department.
And this one is coming out pretty soon, right?
It is, yeah. Just a few more days. I think February 8th, February 9th, something like that. But yeah, so that's... I've really been enjoying it. I've enjoyed every piece of content that they put out for this, and the developers seem really genuine. One of the things I asked them was, were they surprised by the very strong reaction that they've gotten to this game? And they said not especially, because they worked so hard on the game and they loved it, but just the breadth of the reaction, the amount of people that have really become attached to Yarny, they've really appreciated it, and they seem to really be happy.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what reviewers say about it, and those are going to be embargoed up until when? Next week?
The review goes up, I believe, almost a week from now.
All right, well, that was Unravel, a physics-based puzzle platformer with a cute little character coming from Coldwood Interactive and EA. For Kyle, I'm William for attackofthefanboy.com.